Hey everyone, this is Collapse and Protect, and this is the Rev Arms Impact R4. I saw this Benelli M4 copy on Atlantic Firearms website, but I couldn't find any reviews of it. So I reached out and asked them if they could send one my way so I could do the first review on this thing. And I'm super excited to get this thing out to the range because this is the best M4 clone I have seen yet. And it doesn't even cost a sixth of what a real Benelli does. So if you haven't been with us before, here's how we're going to do this. This is going to be part 1 in a 3-video series. So in part 1, we're going to go over all the basics of the shotgun and send 300 shells through it. As long as it's reliable, it moves on to part 2, which is torture testing. That's where we're going to see if it likes to eat dirt, drink water, and play in the mud for another 100 shells. And part 3 is our upgrades video. As is tradition here, I'm going to kit this thing out and make it into the combat shotgun it deserves to be. If you guys want to jump around to the parts of the video that you're interested in, I set up some chapters so you can do that. First, let's look at the specs. The R4 is a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun, and it's a direct 1-to-1 copy of the Benelli M4. It's produced in Turkey, and while that can be a deal breaker for some, I just can't relate to that. All of the Turkish shotguns that I've owned have performed incredibly, some of which, like my Stoeger M3000, have round counts in the thousands. I'm not going to list all the stats of the Benelli M4 because that'd be a waste of time. I'm just going to list everything that's different. So on the bottom, we've got a real Benelli M4, and on the top is our Rev Arms S4, R4, M4. It goes by a couple of different names here, but we're going to compare the two and see a few differences that I've found right off the bat. So if we look at our loading gate on the Benelli M4, see how it's almost flush, but not quite flush. We've just got a little bit that sticks out here. Well, that's not the case on the S4, R4, M4. It sticks out a lot more, and I'm not sure if that's going to affect performance. So if we look at our Benelli, we don't have a ported barrel. It's just smooth here, but our R4 has a ported barrel. I think that's going to help quite a bit with our recoil management. Well, the M4 does have an adjustable telescopic stock, just like the R4. It doesn't have an adjustable cheek piece. You can adjust this for height to make it just a little bit more comfortable to cheek your gun. And it might sound weird, but this telescopic stock is one of the biggest reasons I'm excited about this Benelli clone over all the others. The collapsible stock on a real Benelli M4 costs about $800 to put on any of their models. And let's be honest, in parts, this stock is probably only $40 or so to produce. So if you've ever heard the term Benelli tax, well, that's exactly what it is. Something being overly expensive for no reason. But Rev Arms was like, nah, we're gonna make it for like 20, 30 bucks and slap it on this thing. The only caveat is that it comes with a set screw right in here. And you've got to remove this set screw in order to make this thing slide back and forth. But it's really easy, literally just an Allen wrench and a few turns. And if you couldn't figure that out, they even provided directions for you. And just getting the full functionality out of the telescopic stock, just like the original M4, really boosts the value of the R4. Since this is the law enforcement edition of the M4, it does have a full-length magazine tube. That means you can hold 7 in the magazine tube and 1 in the chamber for a total of 8 rounds. And if you ghost load, you can actually fit 9 rounds in this thing. Now, the same can't be said for the R4. It has a 5-round magazine tube. It is neutered with this guy here. It won't let you load any more shells into this magazine tube, but you can still ghost load for a total of 7 rounds in the gun. And don't worry, we're gonna address this in our upgrades video. Now, I already upgraded my Benelli with this aftermarket oversized bolt handle and this oversized bolt release paddle. And if I had to put a price on those, I think it was about $180 for both of them, whereas the R4 already comes with these upgrades. If we flip our Benelli over, we can see that it is not ambidextrous. There is no cut in the receiver to make it ambidextrous, so we can swap that bolt over. But if we flip our R4, it is ambidextrous. You can simply swap this bolt to the other side and run it like that if you so please. The Benelli M4 also doesn't have a QD attachment point for a sling, but our R4 does. That comes stock from the factory. The trigger guard on an M4 is just a regular size trigger guard, whereas our R4 definitely has an enhanced trigger guard. And Rev Arms even ships this thing with some accessories. We've got choke tube, a QD sling mount point, and all of the Allen wrenches that we need to work on this thing. They also sent a Picatinny rail mount so that we can throw some accessories on this thing. We'll be using this. Before we get into the video, I've got to thank 2 of our sponsors for keeping us safe today. The first being High Risk Training. If you're interested in premium quality gear, go check them out. They make some really high quality stuff like plate carriers, different types of placards to hold ammunition and gear. For example, this is their shotgun shell placard. They make some awesome battle belts and pretty much any kind of pouch that you could want too. And even if you're doing everything right at the range, accidents can still happen, and that's why we carry an IFAK on us. This one's from Rhino Rescue, and it's made out of quality materials while being extremely well priced. They carry a bunch of different size blowout kits and IFAKs, and if you use code Collapse and Protect, it'll get you 15% off your order. Now let's go shoot this thing. The first ammo we're going to try to run through the R4 is this Federal Top Gun. It runs at 1,200 feet per second, and this should allow the R4 to cycle without any issues. All right, so these are going to be the first rounds
through this gun, and hopefully this thing runs okay. When you are breaking in Turkish guns, they might not run birdshot right away. You might need to send something more powerful like buckshot or slugs through these things just to get everything moving. There's a bunch of machine marks inside of here. It's never gonna be as smooth as a Benelli like that because the quality level just isn't on par with it. You get what you pay for with these, and you really see that during the break-in period. Let's see if we can send a few downrange. Okay, well, it cycled everything that we put into it, so that's a good sign. And with birdshot, it's kind of hard to tell if this ported barrel is really doing its job because they're already kind of low powered. But this thing so far is definitely very easy to shoot. The recoil is very low. Awesome. Well, there's our first box of shells through the R4, and it did great. We're just gonna dump this thing. Oh yeah, super smooth, super smooth. So far reliable. We've got less than a box through it, but so far so good. So here we go. This is exactly why I wanted to get my hands on this thing and test it because of little quirks like this. So watch. When the bolt's back all the way to the rear and you press the front, okay, this little guy pops out, and that's good because shells are now gonna feed from the magazine tube. That's what we want. Now we pull the trigger, rack the bolt again and reset it. Now let's press it from the back. See how that little guy didn't pop out? That's not good. That means that no shells are gonna feed from this tube. So that might be our first malfunction with this thing, but for right now, the gun's still operable. I just need to keep hitting the front of this bolt release. Now this thing's starting to get a little bit warm. She's still running though.
And if we look at those barrel ports, we can see that they are helping with the recoil. Look at all of the energy it's directing out of the top of the gun. This is definitely going to help us stay on target during rapid fire. So now we're going to try some buckshot.
This stuff is law enforcement low recoil, so it may or may not cycle. Buckshot's supposed to be a little bit more powerful, but the low recoil could throw some kinks into this mix. So let's see if this Fiocchi runs okay through the R4. It's working just fine. Now the R4 is supposed to be a copy of one of the most popular combat shotguns ever created. So we're not gonna go easy on this thing, right? We're not gonna baby it. It's gotta prove itself just like the M4 did in countless conflicts already. So we're gonna try a few drills and see how this goes. It's still running just fine. Just to let you guys know, I am purposefully banging this shotgun off of my barricade here. It's not an accident or anything. I'm just trying to make sure that this thing being jostled around isn't gonna affect its reliability at all.
And then we had an issue.
Okay, so we've got our first jam here. Let's see if we can just easily clear this. And that other shell, the next shell is in the chamber, so let's send it. That could have just been a fluke, but who knows? Okay, seems like just a fluke on that one.
And after that, there were no more issues with this gun.
Well, the R4 has been running great so far, but now we're gonna go into an accuracy test. Let's see if the factory ghost ring sights are on target. We're gonna be using these federal law enforcement tactical slugs. All right, from 10 yards. Too easy. Now from 40 yards, easy. Now from 100 yards, and it's gonna be hard for you guys to see this one. The grass is so tall out here now. That's a hit. So from 100 yards with slugs, this thing is plenty accurate and reliable. All right, guys, well, the R4 has been incredible so far. We had that one stoppage, but nothing since, and this thing is getting so smooth. I think those machining marks are wearing down after running so many shells through it, but we're gonna keep sending it, getting it up to 300 shells through this thing by the time we're done today. And you know we've gotta try to ghost load this thing, because if it doesn't ghost load, it's not a good copy of a Benelli. So the magazine tube is already loaded. So we're gonna push the lifter down and place one on top of the lifter. Now we load our chamber. Let's see if this thing can run a ghost load. Hey! All rounds fired. There's just nothing like that. The Argo system is so easy to shoot. It's so fun to shoot and it's so fast. Well, there you have it. We've got 300 shells through this thing and we've only got one failure in that entire time.
But now I'm going to do something that I haven't done with any Turkish gun I own before. This issue with the partially functioning bolt release paddle is a little concerning. Maybe a part's out of spec, maybe something just isn't actuating like it should be, but either way it's a malfunction and it should be fixed. So I'm going to warranty this gun and send it back to the manufacturer so they can do just that. Then we get to see how Rev Arms responds to the issue and how quickly they get back to me. I can't say thank you enough to the guys over at Atlantic Firearms. They've been super easy to work with, and I really appreciate them sending the R4 out to me so I can put it through its paces.
So if you guys like this stuff, enjoy this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like the video, and wait for the next one to come out.
This has been Collapse and Protect. Have fun and be safe.